أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Kindly straighten those, making sure there are no gaps. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين عم يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله الله أكبر الله الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وأعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. The mother of Mulana Inam al-Hassan in Blackman has passed away. Brother requested to make that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants the family sabr and grants the marhum Jannal Firdaus. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والسلام على سيد الخلق والمرسلين اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله اللهم لك الحمد حمدا كثيرا مباركا فيه من السماوات ومن الأرض ومن ما بينهما وما شئت من شيء بعد حق الثناء والمجد حق ما قال العبد وكل ما لك عبد اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا منك الجد اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا برحمتك واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت نستغفرك اللهم من جميع الذنوب والخطايا ونتوب إليك اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا وسبيلا لمن اهتدى اللهم اهد الناس والجنة جميعا اللهم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة من ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا لا يرتد ونعيما لا ينفد ومرافقة نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في أعلى جنة القلب اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا كاملا ويقينا صادقا وعملا متقبلا اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيي الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه مع الإيمان اللهم اغفرها وارحمها وسكنها في الجنة اللهم اغسلها بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقها من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس اللهم أبدلها لنا خيرا من دارها وأهلا خيرا من أهلها اللهم حاسبها حسابا يسيرا اللهم حاسبنا حسابا يسيرا اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. One of the characteristics which we should aspire towards and which we should instill in our children is the ability to not be swayed by others and to remain steadfast upon our values, upon our principles, upon our deen. And yesterday we looked at the example found in Sahih Bukhari, the incident of Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu when he went to Syria, Sham, what we call Sham, and he was there for business, for trade. And Hiraqal, he called him, summoned him, asked him a series of questions because Hiraqal had received the letter from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam inviting him to Islam. And Hiraqal wanted to know more about this person because Hiraqal knew from the scriptures that a final prophet would emerge. However, Hiraqal himself, he says, as quoted by Abu Sufyan in the Hadith, that he did not expect the final prophet to emerge from the Arabs. He was thinking that it would come maybe from our community, because we are the community who had the second to last prophet, i.e. Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. So he was very surprised that the final prophet had emerged, and he was from the Arabs. And just a side note here, that there is some difference of opinion that did Hiraqal accept Islam or not inwardly. Because after Abu Sufyan left, or whilst he was there, after this conversation had taken place, the people, there was a huge uproar and hue and cry amongst the people, because the people feared that Hiraqal seems to be, his questions and his response, it seems to be such that he is kind of leaning towards Islam. Because Hiraqal, in his discourse with Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu, also says that if I get the opportunity to meet this person, and if I get the opportunity to go in front of this person, surely I would attend to him to the extent that I would wash his feet. This is what Hiraqal says. And Hiraqal does try to convince his people to accept Islam, but they refuse. Abu Sufyan narrates that basically he summoned all the people, the nobles, etc., into his palace, and he had the doors locked. He had the doors of the palace locked. And then he told them that, look, the final prophet who we all know about has emerged, and he is from amongst the Arabs. And if we want to see success, and if we want to see the survival of our empire and kingdom, we should accept this deen. We should accept this deen. When the people heard this, there was a huge, again, uproar, and people started shouting and debating, and they started to flee from the palace. But when they reached the doors, they were locked. So then Hiraqal summoned them back again. He called them back and he said, I was just testing you. Because Hiraqal realized inside himself that it's not going to work. These people are never going to accept Islam. So he said to them, I was just testing you. I was seeing that, are you firm on your own deen or not? And then the people calmed down and things continue as normal. So there is ikhtilaf that, inwardly, did Hiraqal accept Islam or not? Wallahu a'lam. We don't know. There is no apparent sign of him accepting Iman and Islam despite his strong inclination towards Islam. Today, we're going to look at another example. So yesterday, the objective of this incident was that Hiraqal himself, he said that وَكَذَلِكَ الْإِيمَانِ حِينَ يُخَالِطُ بَشَاشَةَ الْقُلُوبِ, that when the joys of Iman, the fruits of Iman, when they enter deep into a person's heart, that person, he never ever wavers. He stands his ground. He is strong. He is firm. That was the objective of mentioning this qissa and this incident yesterday. Today, another incident about Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the first Khalifa of Islam. And, in the Sahaba, he holds the highest rank. Again, from his life, we see an example. And this is an example of his very early life, before migration, before moving from Mecca to Medina. Again, we see an example where his Iman is tested, but he stands his ground. He stands his ground. He does not waver. The incident goes that فَلَمَّا ابْتُلِيَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ خَرَجَ أَبُو بَكْرٍ مُهَاجِرًا قِبَلَ الْحَبَشَةِ. The persecution in Mecca, it was basically increasing day by day. Life for the Muslims was becoming difficult day by day, especially as more people, they turned towards Islam. So, and they were not allowed to freely practice their deen. People would pray secretly, etc. Nobody would dare to pray openly, for example, inside, around the Kaaba, in the Haram, etc. This only started, people slightly started to pray openly after Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhu accepted Islam. Because Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhu was a very strong person. Very strong person. So only after he accepted Islam, there was a slight change in the habits of the people. They felt that, we've got a bit of support here now. And they started to openly display their ibadah, etc. So Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he basically got fed up with all this persecution in Mecca. He got fed up, and he decided that that's it. I'm going to leave Mecca, and I am going to basically maybe go to Habasha, Ethiopia, etc. And the reason was that I just want to leave Mecca so I can worship my Lord in peace. Simple. That was his reason. So he leaves Mecca. He actually leaves Mecca, and he reaches a place called Barq al-Ghimad. Hatta idha balaga Barq al-Ghimad laqiyahu ibn al-Daghina wa huwa Sayyid al-Qara. So he reaches this place known as Barq al-Ghimad, and there he meets one of the chiefs of a tribe. His name is Ibn al-Daghina. So Ibn al-Daghina goes, hey, where are you going? He says to Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, because he knows Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. He frequents Makkah. He probably has a lot of trade with Makkah. Makkah was like a trading capital. It was an important city in Arabia at that time. So he goes, where are you going? You are far away from Makkah. So Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu replies that أخرجني قومي فأنا أريد أن أسيح في الأرض وأعبد ربي. My people, they forced me out of Makkah. You know, the persecution, it's become so high now that I'm just fed up. I just have left Makkah. The people literally have forced me out, and I'm just going to wander in the earth basically so I can worship my Lord free. So Ibn al-Daghina, you know, he had not accepted Islam, but despite that, you know, these people, they still had certain qualities and characteristics inside them. So he goes to Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu that inna mithlaka la yakhruj wa la yukhraj. You know, someone like you, O Abu Bakr, neither should he leave Makkah, wa la yukhraj, neither should he be forced out by the people. And then he gives his reasons that in فإنك تكسب المعدوم وتصل الرحم وتحمل الكل وتقري الضيف وتعين على نوائب الحق. Very similar statements to what Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha said to Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he came from the cave and he was frightened, his heart was beating, and to calm him down, she basically made a similar statement. So Ibn al-Daghina says the same thing to Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala, that you're a good person, you help the poor and the needy. وَتُعِينُ عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الْحَقِّ, you help in good causes. تَقْرِي الضَّيْفِ, when guests come to Makkah, you basically look after them, you serve them. And you know, you've got so many good qualities inside you. How can a person like you be allowed to leave Makkah or be forced out of Makkah? And Ibn al-Daghina, he was a chief, you know, chief of a tribe. He had the support of his tribe behind him. So what he says to Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala, let's go back. I'm taking you back to Makkah. You're not going anywhere, basically. I'm taking you back, and I am going to become your guarantor. I'm going to give you my protection. That if anybody harms you, they are basically going to be facing me and my tribe. And in those days, these type of agreements would happen. Especially like a small, tiny tribe, they would have allegiances with a much larger, stronger tribe. So if the small tribe would be attacked, the larger tribe would come out to help, etc. So Ibn al-Daghina goes, I am going to become your guarantor. So he takes him back to Makkah. فَطَافَ فِي أَشْرَافِ كُفَّارِ قُرَيْشِ فَقَالَ لَهُمْ. And then they go around to all the chiefs of Makkah, you know, all the so-called important people of that time, the influential people of Makkah, which would have been obviously Abu Sufyan and other people like him. And he said to all of them that a person like Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, he should not be allowed to leave Makkah, neither should he be forced out. And he gives all the reasons. And then he says that basically, I am going to give him my protection. I'm going to give him my guarantee, and I'm informing you that you don't basically harm him. I'm telling you, and I'm informing you in advance that waging war against Abu Bakr is waging war against me and my tribe. So the Quraysh, they accept Ibn al-Daghina's guarantee. However, they also basically, you know, highlight some conditions. That, okay, we'll accept your guarantee. We accept that you've become his guarantor and you're going to protect him, etc. However, we've got some conditions as well. we've got some conditions as well. And one of them is that Mur Aba Bakr فَلْيَعْبُدْ رَبَّهُ فِي دَارِهِ فَلْيُصَلِّ وَلْيَقْرَأْ مَا شَاءَ وَلَا يُؤْذِينَا بِذَلِكَ وَلَا يَسْتَعْلِنُ بِهِ. That okay, you need to tell Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, if he wants to worship his Lord, fine. He must worship Allah or his Lord or whoever he worships in his house. In his house, meaning not openly. Not openly. And this was one of their biggest concerns, that when people like Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu would openly worship, recite the Quran loudly, they used to fear, فَإِنَّا قَدْ خَشِينَا أَن يَفْتِنَا أَبْنَاءَنَا وَنِسَاءَنَا, that our children, our women, they're going to be affected by this. They're going to be attracted to Islam. This was their concern. So they basically put this condition down. That fine, we accept you as his protector, but this is our condition as well. He can worship inside his house, no problem. He can recite anything what he wants inside his house, but he must not openly worship in public, basically. And they gave the reason as well. So Ibn al-Daghina mentioned this to Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu at that moment must have nodded his head and say, okay, TK, I will accept this condition. Anyway, Ibn al-Daghina, he goes off, and Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu remains now in Makkah. He is worshipping inside his house, etc., as per the agreement. After a while, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu thinks to himself that I would like to have a place of worship. I would like to have a specific place of worship within my house, within my grounds, which is dedicated for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he builds like a small masjid, what you call a small musalla, in his basically, in his courtyard somewhere. And now what he does is he starts to worship Allah in this designated area, little masjid, little musalla. And also, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala was a very soft-hearted person when it came to his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he would recite the Quran, either in salah or outside salah, basically he would start crying. He would not be able to control himself. So there you had Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, now no longer doing his ibadah inside the four walls of his house, rather he's now doing it in his courtyard, in some place which is designated for ibadah. People who were going past, they could hear it. And the very fear of Quraysh, it basically, the thing they feared, that our children, our women, they're going to be affected, that started to happen. So immediately the Quraysh, they summoned Ibn al-Daghina, that we need to have a meeting. We need to have a meeting. So they summon him and they call him and they tell him that, look, this is what we agreed upon. That basically you can give protection. You can become the guarantor and protector of Abu Bakr. However, these are our conditions, and at the moment, these conditions are being violated. Abu Bakr at the moment is openly worshipping, and our children and our women, they are stopping outside his house and listening to him, and they're coming home and they're talking about it, like we say in Urdu, uska charcha ho raha hai. This is basically the talk of the town, and people are discussing the verses he's reciting and his manner of worship and how basically he cries in front of his Lord, etc. And you've got to understand that women are women. They are usually soft-hearted. They basically easily get attracted towards anything. Even nowadays, anything happens, the first people to jump on the bandwagon, it's our women basically. So now they had this problem and they presented it to Ibn al-Daghina. So they said to Ibn al-Daghina, look, you go back to Abu Bakr, you tell him that he either abides by the conditions which we agreed upon, or you remove your protection. What they did not want was, they did not want a confrontation with Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu whilst he was under the protection of Ibn al-Daghina, because they knew that things will get messy. Things will get messy because Ibn al-Daghina, the pride of the Arabs. The Arabs had certain pride inside them, that the man, the person we've given protection to, if you're going to harm him, we're going to come out after you. And we will fight you till our last breath and last drop of blood, basically. So they did not want this to happen. So they said to Ibn al-Daghina, you go to Abu Bakr, you tell him that you either abide by the conditions or you remove your protection. So we are now free to deal with Abu Bakr radiallahu anh without the fear of fighting with you and your tribe, basically. So Ibn al-Daghina, that's what he does. He goes to Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, and he tells him that, look, I've been summoned by the Quraysh, and basically this is what they've told me. You either, and Ibn al-Daghina also says to him that you either basically refrain from openly worshipping, or I will have to remove my protection, because I don't want to be that person who is talked about in Mecca and in Arabia, that basically you gave protection and a guarantee to such and such a person, and then basically you were violated, meaning the conditions that were agreed, they were not basically abided by, and because of that it resulted in fighting, war, etc. I don't want to be that person. I want you to abide by the conditions. I want to be able to stand up to that honor and rank which I have. So Abu Bakr, this is basically the objective of this incident. Like in Hirakal, the objective was, Hirakal says that when the joy of Iman, the fruits of Iman, when they enter a person's heart, nothing can basically shake that person. He stands his ground. He will not leave Iman and Islam. So Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala who calmly listens to Ibn al-Daghina and whatever Ibn al-Daghina had to say. So قال Abu Bakr فَإِنِّي أَرُدُّ إِلَيْكَ جِوَارًا وَأَرْضَى بِجِوَارِ اللَّهِ. He just gives him one small sentence as a response, that I return to you your guarantee and your protection, meaning I don't need it. I don't need your guarantee. I don't need your protection. Inni وَأَرْضَى بِجِوَارِ اللَّهِ. I am happy with the guarantee and protection of Allah. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, despite facing, huge hostilities, Makkah was not a safe place for any Muslim. It was not a safe place. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala was from the nobles. So if he felt persecuted, just imagine those people like Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, those people who were deemed the lower class of society. Just imagine the level of persecution they had to face. So Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, I don't need your protection. I'm returning it to you. Aruddu ilayk. I am returning it to you. I am happy bijiwarillah, with the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this is again another example. When Iman is firmly inside you, when Iman is deep inside you, you don't care about anybody. You don't care about anybody. This person, Ibn al-Daghina, he's a chief. He has a whole tribe behind him. He's got resources. He's got power, basically. He's got manpower. Despite that, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala disregards that. He disregards that. He does not think of his own self, that what will happen to me. He puts his trust solely in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah will protect me. I am happy with his protection. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to build this type of iman. This is very important. We're living in a country where now it's like almost third generation and fourth generation coming up. If we don't safeguard our iman and the iman of our children, and we don't work towards it, wallahi, it doesn't take long. You only need one generational gap before Islam leaves a community or a family or a certain people. Just one generation, that's it. That's all you need. One generation. You don't need two, you don't need three. You just need one generation. Once Iman, Islam stops at a particular generation, that's it. The next one after that, it's gone. The next one. And we've got many examples of this around the world. You go to South America, Muslims came there over 120, 30, 40 years ago. We've had some Jamaats coming recently from Chile, and we sat down with them, and they told us that you go to these places in South America, Muslims have been there for 150 years, largely from Yemen, Middle East, etc. They migrated there when there was persecution going on in the Middle East, basically. So they migrated there. It was economic migration. Within 50 years, Iman, Islam finished, basically. And you find people today who might be fourth generation, fifth generation Muslim, basically, maybe slightly by name or something. They have no idea what their deen is. However, in some houses, you might find an old copy of a Quran left by their great-grandfather or someone. Left by their great-grandfather of someone. The Chile Jamaat, they mentioned to us that we went to basically one brother's business place, and he was selling alcohol. They knew he was Muslim by certain signs, name, etc., surname, etc., the way names are spelled. So they went to see him. And eventually they got him talking, and he said, yes, yes, I do remember something from my grandfather, great grandfather, that this is how they used to pray, etc. And then one of the brothers who'd gone to talk to this person, his eye fell on something that was on a shelf, and he goes, this looks like Quran, what is this? So that person, he brought it down, and he said that my grandfather left this behind, and he said that always look after this. He said, always look after this. Ajib. The person does not understand the value of what he has, or that it's the Quran. He doesn't even know how to read it. But he was told by his grandfather that, look after this. And this has been in our family for 1 or 2 generations, basically. So the point I am making is it doesn't take long for Iman and Islam to go out from a community. Just 1 generation, that's it. 1 generation stops doing amal, 1 generation becomes weak. Basically, 1 generation basically stops practicing Islam. The next one or the one after, basically, then they are finished. May Allah save our Iman and the Iman of our children and of our generations to come. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa